Hello, thank you everyone for coming for this talk. My name is Marian Pekár. I'm from Bohemia Interactive, and I'd like to show you how we use Slack in our build pipeline on the Ylands project, which is this colorful game for creative and curious people. Bit of a shameless plug here. And I will divide this talk into three main parts. I will tell you why you might want to make the effort to integrate Slack into your build pipeline. What's the benefit of it? And in the second part, I will show you from the user point of view how it looks like in our integration. And in the last part, I will see you the implementation. But although I'm a programmer, I'm not going to show you any code, but rather data flow diagrams, and I'll try to explain how the system works on these diagrams. But before that, let me tell you something more about our build pipelines to put this talk into context. So we built in parallel for multiple platforms, and we use Jenkins, C# tools, and PowerShell scripts. We do integrity builds every 30 minutes, and also QA builds, which we build every night, so QA have always fresh build in the morning. And we also have other branches, which we build from as needed. And on the bottom image, you see our typical build pipeline. It usually starts with unit testing, where we use Unity test framework. And there's this building and deploying. And because regression testing is done on a different machine, the building machine is free, and another run of the same build plan can already start. For regression testing, we use Unity, pretty cool project. If you use Unity, it's something I can recommend for regression testing. And so here's this motivation slide. Why to integrate Slack in build pipeline. And for us, it provides us really fast and accurate feedback. We also see it as a central space for communication, especially over a concrete issue. And because of the interactivity, it also provides us a way to trigger events such as start or stopping pipelines. So what does it look like? Everything revolves around something we call Slack live build reports, or just Slack reports for short. And it's a Slack message updated in real time. And this message is first sent from build pipeline at the beginning, and then is updated as pipelines go through stages. On the bottom image in the left, you see two such reports. They are both from Trunk Integrity Mobile plan. And you can see for each pipeline, here's a separate line. There's one for iOS and Android. In the first, you can see that iOS is already in testing phase and Android has been successfully built. And so another already started, which is now in building phase, and Android is in deploying phase. The other image is from RC build, which is successfully completed all pipelines, but that's not always the case. And in fact, this system is useful for us, especially when something goes wrong. Because if something goes wrong, we got this information about what goes wrong. It's taken from the Unity build log that's below the full build pipeline failed on the bottom left image. And the system also sends thread reply, which is like the common place for communication. And in this thread reply, you can see there's this changelog. In this changelog, we have changes since the last success. It's cumulated if pipeline fails multiple times in a row. And this another message with a random kitten image has tags. If you know Slack, you know that if someone tags you like this in a message, you get notification. So this is basically how the system notifies developers who might be interested in this particular fail. Later, I'll show you how the system determines who to notify. And there's also this mind button, and the mind button is for claiming an issue, and it optionally also can pause build plans, those that are run automatically, for example, every 30 minutes, like the integrity build. So when I click the mind button, it's like saying, it's my responsibility, I broke it, so I'll fix it. And if the pipeline is set, or the plan is set, rather, to be stopped by this claim H, then I get this direct message that informs me that plan has been stopped and that I should click the resume button once I finish my fix, once I commit it to version control. And the similar message also goes to channel, so anyone else can resume it too. And once they do it, confirmation message is posted, and those messages with the resume buttons disappeared. So everything can go back to normal. We also can revert changes directly from this thread reply. There's this drop-down list. Anyone can select which revision from those who might be the cause of fail want to revert. Then he just need to confirm it by retype the number of revision to be really sure he know what he wants to revert. And then confirmation message is sent, and also when the process finished, the standard output from the removed subversion client is posted to confirm or eventually tell it couldn't be done because of tree conflict, for example. We can also abort plans if the plan is in running phase. There's this abort button. It also goes through dialog, but this dialog has this time optional text field when we can provide reason for this particular plan has been aborted, and this reason, if provided, is then displayed to everyone in confirmation message. If something goes wrong, I get this Slack call it ephemeral message. It's a message that only I see, and this message tells me what goes wrong, and to others they tell them to contact. They tell it they should contact me. It's hard-coded there. Our developers also can start build plan. This is useful, especially for designers, that we don't have to teach them how to operate with Jenkins or how to go to build server and running things manually. They simply type /build anywhere on Slack, and they could provide name of their custom pipeline, for example, directly, or they can just send /build, and they are instructed to select plan from drop-down list, and they can start any build plan just like that. So no other knowledge required. And how does it work? Everything revolves around this backend, which is color-coded in blue here. So when pipeline starts, it sends plan info, which is a post request to Slack Reporter API, and this data is then stored to database, and pipeline gets back a unique ID, which later used for updating this message. And Slack Reporter observes the database, and when new pipeline info is added, this Slack Reporter creates Slack message, serialize it to JSON, and forge a request to Slack API. And to update message in Slack API, you need to know channel and timestamp. So this timestamp is saved. This timestamp comes back in a response from Slack API. So it sends. It's safe to database. And yeah, so later if pipeline needs to send update, it uses unique ID, but internally in communication with Slack API, it uses timestamp and channel. So this is something I've been just talking about in a different point of view with some data. So on the left, you can see part of the plan info. It has been shortened. There are a lot of other fields, but these are the most important. So you can compare it with the image on the bottom. You see we got the plan matches, the revision, the build number, and also this pipeline infos array. There's only one, so here's just this full pipeline, which is the full version. And when this data comes to this live report add route of API, this message eventually shows in Slack. And later, when pipeline wants to update it, when it goes, for example, from testing to building phase, it just sends this simple update message, which tells which environment, which platform to update, and to which status. And 3 is its enum is the full, is the building. So if pipeline sends to update pipeline / and ID of plan obtained when plan started, when it was added before, then the message is changed, as you can see on the bottom left, to building state. And later, when it fails, it sends again this environment is full, pipeline status is -1, which means the build error, and it also sends some more information. Usually, it's taken from log when it's in build. When it's build error, it's compiler output, so it's presented in the message, so developers immediately can see what went wrong. And if not, they can use these buttons to inspect the console or get all logs, and eventually they can start new build directly from here with the new build message, new build button. Sorry. And sending notification or tags in thread reply is done similarly. Pipeline after when finds out who should be notified, sends an array of Slack user IDs to add users, and again the ID of the report, and then just empty post request is sent to notify users to actually send this message with the kitten image. Yeah, the kitten image is very important there, like the most important thing. And as I promised, to show you how the system determines who should be notified. So we got some known errors. So we first check if the error is known. And if yes, we got Slack user IDs associated with it. And we ask if we should tag only these people or more of them. So add or replace, but in reverse order. And if this error is associated with only concrete developer and then no one else don't need to know, then only this user is notified. But if the error is not known, or we should notify other people, we then proceed to inspecting the error, and we are looking for matching file path. Because if there's a file path in error log, there's a high chance this file path will be in changelog 2. So if we find a match, we notify only the user who made the last change in this file. And if we don't find a matching file path, the last resort is to notify everyone in a changelog since the last success. And also this is cumulative. When a pipeline fails again, we notify these people again. One slight addition to this was recently added. When someone claims the error becomes known until the first success, because he claims it, so it's now his error. So it's dynamically add to this known errors. We get also a lot of other routes. We could delete, restore, copy. We can attach files, and we have also another like base routes. For example, to sending custom messages like just simple text for this direct message /send channel and user ID. And interactivity. When you want to use Slack interactivity, you need some publicly available endpoint, because when someone clicks on an interactive element in Slack, it goes to this endpoint. The data goes to this endpoint. And if you want to use /commands, also these /commands needs to be registered in the app configuration. So for that, we needed some sort of tunneling, but not in the classical sense, because IT didn't want it to expose something in the internal network in that way. So we implemented this interactivity endpoint as a separate ASP Netcore API, and the data from Slack message goes there. It's stored to queue, and it's also sanitized there. And in internal network, that's the bottom part, the request forwarder takes this data. If it's in queue, then it goes off from the queue, and then it's sent to Slack Reporter API, handled to the backend logic, and the interactivity handler handles it and usually contacts some connected service to actually do the trick which has been requested. And also Slack API client usually updates the message through another request to Slack API. So this is a concrete example of what I've just been spoken about. It's handling mine button clicked. So you can see someone clicked on mine button. The data from Slack look like data here on the left side. It's in JSON. It has been shortened. There are a lot of other fields, but most of them we are not using. And it goes through interactivity endpoint, forwarded to Slack Reporter API through request forwarder, and interactivity handler contacts Jenkins Plan Manager, which is one of those connected services. And this Plan Manager tells to Slack, stop this pipeline. And then Slack responds, and the confirmation is sent to Slack API. And also these buttons with these messages with resume buttons are also sent back to Slack API, sent to Slack through Slack API. Another example is handling revert revision select. It's a little bit different because it goes through dialog. So first, the dialog is created with someone select revision from drop-down list, and that's the yellow data flow with yellow arrows. And when the dialog is confirmed, then it's the same as before. It goes through endpoint to interactivity handler, but this time it's another connected services. No Jenkins Plan Manager, but a Subversion client. It does its trick. It does the reverse merge, which is basically a revert. And meanwhile, confirmation message is sent. And then after subversion operation is done, this standard output is also sent. And last example is handling /build command. And I guess you already see the pattern is similar, but instead of dialog, here we have this drop-down menu. And instead of Subversion client, we have Jenkins Plan Manager. So here you can imagine any other elements, like UI elements in Slack, instead of image number 2, and any other connected service instead of Jenkins Plan Manager. It will always work from this point of view the same, so which makes the system very easy to extend of other ideas. And if you'd like to implement something similar, these sources I found very useful. Of course, the Slack API documentation, the Jenkins Remote Access API documentation. It's a little bit tricky to work with Jenkins Remote Access API, but yeah, it can work, obviously. And this great tutorial about making ASP.NET Core API was very useful. And also these 2 tools. First is Postman API. If you don't know, Postman API is very useful for forging and sending requests. So great for debugging. And ngrok is tunneling service. It's also great for debugging. Okay, so thank you for your time, and I believe we might have some time for questions. So, yeah, ask if you want. Thank you for your attention. Sorry about the broken font. It wasn't saved with the presentation. It should be different font, so that's why it was broken.
Thank you. A few words. How do you exactly try to match usernames with Slack IDs?
Yeah, it's a static list. We got the usernames from Subversion, and we got Slack IDs, and it just key value pairs in a JSON file. Didn't find any other way.
Okay, but people tend to use some kind of different variations of how the name is written.
Oh yeah, you mean this one? No, the Slack ID is always the same. The Slack ID is like the ID of the user, not his name. So he can have like, for example, one of my colleagues got this. I'm a legend, so he can be a legend and the ID.
Yeah, but before that, how do you find him from the change list?
Yeah, in the change list, it's also static in the change list. So I know his username in change list. I know his Subversion username. That's known for me, and I also know his Slack ID. I find it because he tells me when he's on the onboarding. And he's this new guy, so I add him. I add this pair to the list.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi. I have one question, because in our company we do a little similar integration, and we also created the automatic generation of changelogs for between the commits. I was wondering if you tried something like that.
Well, I know what you mean by automated generation of changelog. You mean the
the listed text of things that was. That you can expect in this build, right?
Oh yeah. We do that based on commits. We simply take them from commits, and we forge our own changelog based on that. That was the file. Send it to that thread reply. It was this one. Yeah, that one. The image number 1. That's the changelog. Yeah, and it's you see it has this header, build and build number, so it's cumulated. So we have something similar.
Good.
So hi, the build pipeline looks really handy.
Thank you.
However, I wonder whether it's not too advanced in some time, and how big is your team actually?
Well, we have around 30 people. Around 30 people, I guess.
And are all developers familiar with the whole stuff that you presented? Can they all like maintain this pipeline and like develop some more features to that?
Well, I hope so. I guess yes, because it's based on these microservices. So when they want to create their own service, they can make it totally agnostic of this, and they only need to expose API, and they usually tell me, I want to integrate this, or I think they will be able to integrate it by themselves, because I wrote a very a deep documentation on how the system works. So yeah, I guess it would be doable to someone else, for me to pass the torch to someone else.
Yeah, I just wondered whether you need like dedicated people for that.
Yeah, that's me actually.
Okay, so,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, it took me like 2 years to make this, but not in consecutive work. I'm doing other stuff too, but in the meantime I was doing this. So yeah, it's my responsibility as like the build guy in the team.
Great job, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Could you elaborate more on the health status of the builds? Are they tested after they've been built in the same pipeline, or do you have to run some tests manually?
Yeah, we got automated testing. It's everything you see on the bottom image is automated. So it's basically the same pipeline if we talk about it data-wise, because when this ID of plan is obtained at the beginning, then it travels through the pipeline till the end. So from this point of view, it's the same pipeline. But for example, in Jenkins, these are different jobs. the Jenkins has this feature to, they call it downstream jobs. You can run another job from upstream job, and you can pass arguments. So we pass this ID to this job. So from the Slack point of view, from the Slack integration, it's one pipeline. It's still the same ID, but from the inertia of the things, it might be more separate processes. But everything is automated here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, so thank you once again for your attention. This was actually my first talk, so I was very nervous. Thank you, bye.